All right, here's a couple of back stretches. All these stretches, make sure you're breathing. Nice deep breaths in, exhale out. Think about focus on relaxing. And also go through the range of motion that feels good for you. Don't force, just like with any kind of stretch, you don't want to force yourself deep into a stretch. So I always recommend starting first with child's pose. And I would probably do this a lot, but thinking about reaching the hips back, like someone's pulling the hips out that way, and really elongating the arms, pulling the shoulders away from the ears. Trying not to round the back on here. Try to think about hinging at the hips, really elongate your spine. Hold for 30 seconds or so. And then to get some traction in the lower back, especially on the sides and above the hip, walk your hands over to the right. Push your hips out to the left. So you're getting a nice long stretch. And with this hand, but reaching it out as you're pushing this hip out. So you're going like in a diagonal. Oh, deep breaths. So you'll feel that likely even below in the shoulder, through the lats, all the way down through the lumbar spine. You walk your hands over to the other side. Oh, so good. Okay, cat-cow. Again, another one, do it all the time, but just to go over a couple of cues on here. Place your hands underneath your shoulders, and you're gonna pull the shoulders down away from the ears, and reaching your butt up. So you're actually getting a little bit of a little contraction in the back. Pull the shoulders down and bring your chin all the way up. So the string's pulling me up here and here. And then curling in, tuck the butt under, push through the palms, open up the space between the shoulder blades. Go through that, depending on how it feels, 3, 4, 5 times. But don't forget the neck part. Reach up to the ceiling and curl. Okay, sometimes low back issues can be hip flexors. The hip flexors do the opposite of what the glutes do. They literally, when you're standing, every time you walk, or when you're sitting, hip flexors get shortened, and then they can pull the pelvis out of alignment. So, hip flexor stretch. Bringing one leg forward. So in this case, I'm bringing my right leg forward, left leg, the back leg is when we're gonna work. What you're gonna do is you're gonna kind of tuck the butt under and then push the hips forward. And the stretch through here. Make sure you're not leaning forward from the hip. You push the hips forward, but then from the hips, lean back and get a deeper stretch. Pull the back leg's arm back and across. Nice deep breaths. So again, like someone's reaching, grabbing my hand back and over. Do that on both sides. Get those hip flexors. Okay, a little spinal rotation. First, bring your knees into your chest, give yourself a little tight hug. You can rock back and forth. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your legs up in tabletop. You're gonna drop them over, let's say to the right side. Get back all the way even on my mat. Take the top hand, pull that knee down while looking over away from this leg. One thing I like to do is rather than just holding it here, this top hip, rather than just letting it fall, you're not pushing it up and out. So you're kind of trying to reach that hip up and over. And then other side. Across. And same thing with this one. You can hold it here, and then you can also go up and out. So you'll feel back. Depending on how your hip flexors are, you might feel it in the hip flexor too. Oh. Okay, other things I recommend. A lacrosse ball. You can roll a lacrosse ball laying down on your back or pressing into a wall, going obviously not on the spine, but on either side of the spine, work through here. You can also lay with a lacrosse ball. If you get the peak of your hip bone, placing the ball right on the inside of the hip bone, push into it. And what you're gonna do from here is you're gonna bend your knee, And then you're gonna lift the knee up, squeezing the glute, lift the knee and pushing into the ball. Holding for 1 or 2 counts, relax. Up and down. One of the big hip flexor muscles, it starts here and it comes all the way up, pretty high up. So you can start in here right inside the hip, and you can work your way up and work your way down. And then the last thing I'd recommend is make sure hamstrings are not super tight, because hamstrings get tight, they also pull on the pelvis and they can throw off your pelvis and then affect your low back. So you do standing ones, which I'm sure you've probably done many of these here, where you're gonna hinge at the hips, reach your hips back. Think about being nice and tall at the hips. Bring your toe up. Or with a strap. Taking a strap. Flex the foot and pull up gently. Feel that stretch. You can take it out to the side. Taking it across. And last, I can't forget about, even though it's low back, you got to look about what's all is happening around the back, around the hip joint that might be causing the pain. So always working on stretching your outer glutes and hips. Doing like a figure, I call this a 90-90, not figure, 90-90 stretch. So you're gonna have your right knee right in front in line with your hip and ankle in line, and then the back knee in line with hip and ankle in line. So you've got a 90-90. Hinging forward. You wanna be nice and tall, so you're not rounding. Nice and tall, lean forward, holding that for 30 seconds. And before you switch sides, to get the back stretch, you're gonna grab this back knee, push this hip forward. Now this might be enough of a stretch, depending on how tight your hips are. If you can manage that, you'll lift your arm up, pulling it back, open up the chest and across. Woo! So those are some stretches for you to try. Keep me posted on how, where you're feeling it, how it's feeling in your back, and also, I think I said you in your message too about, is it sharp pain, dull pain, do you feel it all the time? I'm gonna send you now a second video with some core stabilization exercises. A couple you've already done, but I wanna make sure you're doing them right and show you a couple new ones.